Come on in, sit back and relax. You're listening to the WealthTech Today podcast. I'm your host, Craig Iskowitz, founder of Ezra Group Consulting. And this podcast features interviews, news, and analysis on the trends and best practices all around wealth management technology. And this is our April news roundup. We've got a lot of stories for you from Morningstar, WealthBox, Zocks, Jump, Right Capital, Finan, Tiffin, LPL, and of course, the WealthTech Integration Score and the AdvisorTech Map. We also have a special guest host who I know you're going to want to hear from and what he's got to say about all these news stories. But before that, let's talk about something most RIAs won't admit, that their tech stack didn't evolve by design. It was evolved by accident. New custodians, new portfolio management tools, new must-have apps layered on top of each other year after year. And now leadership is wondering why their advisors aren't using the tools they paid for and why operations feels harder, not easier. At Ezra Group, we don't sell software. We just help wealth management firms objectively assess their tech ecosystems and make smart, defensible decisions about where to invest and where to stop wasting money. Check out our 90-day tech stack reboot, which gives you clarity without committing to a years-long transformation project. If you want your tech stack to support growth, instead of slowing it down, you need to run, not walk, to our website, ezragroup.com, and click the golden Contact Us button on the homepage to book a strategy call. Ezra Group, we just make tech stacks better. And now, a few housekeeping tasks. Please subscribe to the show wherever you listen to podcasts. And I've been told by our marketing team to ask you to please not only like and subscribe, but give us a 5-star review on whatever platform you listen to the podcast on. That'd be really helpful for us. Number 2, check out our sponsor, the Invest in Others Charitable Foundation at investinothers.org. And if you are a WealthTech vendor, register your product at ezragroup.com/register so your WealthTech integration score is always up to date. And now, let's kick this thing off. And I'm excited to introduce my guest host for this episode of the news, the April news. It is none other than Jeremy Carnell, former head of data solutions from Envestnet. Jeremy, I'm so glad to talk to you here.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you so much for inviting me to be part of this. It's going to be great.
You're one of the few guest hosts we've had for the news. You've had some people come in for like 1 or 2 stories, but you're going to sit in on all the news, the whole thing.
All the news. I am honored to collaborate with you on this. This is going to be fun.
I'm excited too. And what's great about this is, you are the former head of data solutions for Envestnet, so you've got a lot of free time now to talk about the news.
A lot of free time to read and talk about the news, no doubt.
Well, fortunately, so you're now in between jobs, as we could say, right? In between opportunities, right?
Indeed.
Right. And we just did a podcast with you and your brother Ian, who's the CEO of Vast Advisor.
That's correct. My identical twin brother, Ian. So yeah, we're trying to work on this whole brand in the wealth industry.
Yeah, you should.
We should, right? We talked about that at Future Proof last year.
Why not? Exactly. Yeah. And we did this. Now that podcast hasn't dropped yet. We're holding it till May to some announcement with Vast Advisor. But it was fun when he said, "Oh, Jeremy's right here. You want him on the podcast?" I'm like, "Yeah, bring him on." That's never happened before. No one's ever jumped into a podcast live while we were talking.
I wasn't even expecting that. That was literally the day after we arrived in Dana Point from road tripping from Austin, Texas to Dana Point, California, because he's moving out there. He's getting married next month. And so that was less than 24 hours after we just finished that 2-day road trip. And he just out of the blue from across the house was like, "Hey, Jeremy."
Get over here.
I'm like, "Oh shit, okay, let's
get on Zoom. Get on Zoom now. Come on."
That's right.
And it worked. It was fun. We did a whole podcast. So look for that in May, everyone, when the Carnell Twins podcast will drop.
Hashtag Wealth Bros.
But right now we're doing the news. We got a lot of stories, and you're going to be here for all of them. So let's jump in. The first story is Morningstar selling ByAllAccounts.
Yeah,
that is. I think that's That's one of the biggest news. Maybe not in terms of the size and scope, but ByAllAccounts is such a well-known brand name in the industry, and to finally be sold after so many years just seems like a transition of one era to another.
Well, I mean, I think this is the takeaway. First, InvestNet punted Yodlee, right? Now
Mm-hmm.
Morningstar is punting ByAllAccounts. So when two of the biggest names in wealth management decide data aggregation really isn't core to their strategy in sort of the same 12-month window,
Mm-hmm.
that's telling you something, right?
Yeah, it says
So
something. Yeah, I'm not sure what
yeah.
it's good to be a coincidence, but I don't believe in coincidences.
Yeah. No, I mean, I have to think that, I mean, obviously the buyers are different. The situation and the divestitures are
Mm-hmm.
definitely different, but I'm wondering whether or not both sides of it. I've obviously got a little bit of insight on the
Mm-hmm.
InvestNet side,
A little.
um, but a little. Part of me just thinks whether or not both of these players just looked at the ambiguity that exists around the 1033 rule,
Mm-hmm.
that's still in flux. And until that gets decided upon, you've got these big financial banks basically going to put a toll booth in front, and that's going to
Mm-hmm.
change the economics of everything. So, part of me is like, we've got better and bigger things to deal with than that type of regulation in front of us.
So let me just read the first bit of this press
Yeah,
release that the company that is buying them is called Pello Companies LLC. I've never heard of them. This is which
either
focuses on finance innovation. I didn't know that. So they're
okay.
buying this. They're buying it. They say ByAllAccounts will operate as a standalone company, expected
Yeah,
to close first half of 2026, which is now. And so they brought a new CEO who came from Moody's and S&P Global,
yeah.
and they, obviously it's a strong brand name. It's got a decent market share, and it's a part of a trend of Morningstar divesting themselves in general of all their software business,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Yodlee went to a large, diversified PE firm, right?
Hmm.
STG. They got what 12 billion in AUM,
Hmm.
and they own RSA. And I actually didn't know this. They actually own SurveyMonkey as well. I mean, they got a pretty decent portfolio.
Hmm.
But when you think about them, they were a financial buyer treating what Yodlee probably like a portfolio asset.
Hmm.
Where by all accounts is going to Pello.
Yeah.
And again, I've not heard of them either.
Yes.
And so I'm assuming that obviously smaller, but focused on open finance innovation. So, but I think both are making the same bet that moving these assets outside of these large conglomerates into something that is private and direct is going to unlock their value, that was sort of trapped away, possible or perceived as trapped away
Perceived
in.
value. Yeah. So
Yeah.
the new CEO, Cynthia Rojas Cejas of ByAllAccounts, said, our vision is to deliver advisors, wealth managers, and wealth technology platforms the most comprehensive financial account data and an expanded set of capabilities that extend beyond pure data aggregation. Through deep relationships, including Morningstar, we are confident about powering the ongoing digital transformation of the wealth management ecosystem.
Mm.
Sounds like a lot of fluff, but
I was gonna say that sounds like a generated press release. I mean,
yes.
obviously, yeah, just as InvestNet's still a client of Yodlee, right? I
Mhm.
mean that those things are going to continue on in transactions
Mhm.
like that. I just wonder what the future is with these guys. Both Yodlee and ByAll sort of still have their legacy in screen scraping, right? And the
Mhm.
whole 1033 rule was to take us out of that world and move us more into an API world.
Mhm.
And with that rule in limbo, that
Mhm.
migration timeline really uncertain. Screen scraping
Mhm.
remains a legal and scrutiny, a security gray area, I think, for
Yes.
regulators and banks both. And so, again, it's amazing to see how far this industry has swung from one pole to the next in just a matter of 10 years.
Mhm.
Uh, and to see both of these darlings in the space get divested from these major players, it's stunning. It really is,
Yeah,
but
it's
not surprising. Not surprising though,
right.
obviously.
So on the Morningstar side, so they shut down a Morningstar office.
Yep.
They sold their TAMP, and now they're selling
Yeah.
by all accounts.
Yeah.
So do you think they're getting out of anything that's not data related? Purely them providing data.
It seems that way, right? It really does. I mean, I think they're focused on a core, and I think they're focused on something, getting rid of the distractions.
Yep.
I mean, InvestNet, I think, is focused on that as well. That they've been very public about that. I think they're
Sure.
following the same playbook and the same loop in that regard.
All right. So I don't know where you go to find information about pillow companies. I don't know what their website is. But I'm sure you can ask Claude what Pello Companies is, and if you want more information about them, of course, everyone knows where to find more information about Morningstar. All right, so let's move. That was 8 minutes on that story. Let's go to the next story. Slightly different story. So Cetera, we all know Cetera, the large broker dealer, selects Zocks to offer AI assistant to 12,000 financial professionals. Zocks, blah, blah. So Cetera affiliate financial professionals and their teams can now use Zocks to automate administrative and meeting tasks, onboard clients faster, and ultimately drive organic growth. Zocks streamlines operational tasks that previously required hours of manual data entry, captures data from client conversations, documents CRM data, such as money in motion milestones, brokerage statements, and financial status changes, and turns it into structured data. Zocks then automatically creates meeting summaries to update the CRM, and financial planning tools advisors use it every day, including more than 370 fields in e-money. Additionally, Zocks pulls relevant information from these connected systems to automate meeting prep, notes, personalized email replies, and more, all with up-to-the-date client context and data. So with these AI-powered automation and client insights, Cetera affiliates can reclaim time to build deeper relationships. Additionally, Cetera leadership gains firm-wide visibility into client intelligence to help identify trends, bottlenecks, and scale best practices. So, all right, Jeremy, you go. What do you think? And I'll tell you what I think.
Yeah, 12,000. I mean, that's a meaningful number. It puts Zocks sort of in a direct sort of foot trace with Jump, which, by the way, also has a relationship with Cetera. Mm-hmm. So now both are competing for wallet share. So that's going to be interesting to see how they play this out. It's almost like a horse race that seems to be being put into.
It's not like a horse race. It is a horse race.
It is a horse race, no doubt. And by the way, I adore Cetera. Obviously, they were a huge pillar for us in my previous startup that InvestNet acquired. Truelytics, yes. And so, they in many, and I've said this publicly before, in many ways, Truelytics is the house that Cetera built. And so I owe them a lot for that. And so it's great to see sort of my colleagues on the entrepreneurial side sort of getting traction with a huge enterprise like this. Mm-hmm. I think the real risk with deals at this scale comes down to actual usage. Mm-hmm. And this is, it's no different between Cetera or LPL. It doesn't matter. Just because the agreement has 12,000 seats does not mean they're all going to be active users, especially with sort of an advisor base that is made up of the demographics that sort of, that Cetera sits on top of. So we'll see. The real metric to see whether or not this lands is monthly active users 6 months from now. Let's see what that looks like. And to compare that with Jump, right? That's horse race. That's going to be the game.
Sure. So what I thought was interesting is if you read the press release, this press release versus a press release that Zocks might have put out 6 months ago, very different. You talk about all the operational tasks and bringing in PDF statements, looking for money in motion milestones, brokerage statements, financial status changes, and then converting those to structured data, right? And onboarding. That wasn't in the list of features just 6 months ago. These are no longer note takers. These are agentic AI operating systems or agentic AI platforms that are looking to take as much of the advisor's workflow as possible.
Yeah, I think they're looking to build definitely a much more comprehensive client portfolio by analyzing sort of data across multiple ongoing change. And so that, Jump shines really in summarizing very specific immediate client conversations. Mm-hmm. And I think this administrative focus that Zocks is taking is a way for them to differentiate themselves from a cluttered space, right? I mean, you and I have talked about this in the past. Note takers are dime a dozen, and the barrier of entry is very low in this space also. Mm-hmm. So when you think about how other platforms like Copilot, et cetera, that are getting rolled out at the enterprise level are going to start also probably playing in this field as well over time. It's good to see that. It seems like Zocks is obviously reading the tea leaves and looking to diversify. So,
Right. I think they just see that they are now the gatekeepers of a lot of data. Basically, almost every piece of data
yeah,
that comes into a wealth management firm now has to go through the note taker.
yeah,
And if they've got getting first crack at all the data, why not do everything with it? Why not import? Why not
yeah,
run proposals? Why not do onboarding? Why not push it everywhere else? You become the main thoroughfare for all the data coming in and it being pushing to every other system.
yeah, yeah. No, it's a good position for them to be in, frankly. So,
There was an article about I can't remember can't find it here, but there's a guy, an industry pundit named is Nathaniel Whitmore,
yeah,
and he's got a great podcast. He's been around for a long time, and he started, of course, an AI podcast, as everyone did. And he wrote an article. I can't remember the title. It's like every AI application is now becoming every other AI application, right? Everyone's just building everything all at the
yeah,
same time. So we're seeing
yeah,
that with these note takers are all saying, well, I can do onboarding, I can do document extraction, I can do proposals, I can do
that's
this,
right.
I can do it. Why not do it? So keep building. Everyone's building everything because the next story, we'll just keep plowing through these. Um,
Yeah,
the next story is Jump,
yeah,
came out with a name. They're like, hey, we've got an AI operating system for advisors. So Jump expands AI operating system, blah blah. Salt Lake City, they're firmly launching AI operating system for advisors, consisting of a series of practical AI solutions built on top of unified data integration and agentic AI orchestrated foundation. Oh boy, that's a lot. That's a lot of buzzwords. Uh, Designed to power the modern advisory firm. So this is exactly what I read from the
yeah,
Zocks announcement. They just didn't have a cool name.
yeah.
Right. So the
That's
new
right.
structure organizes Jump's capabilities into three integrated products: Meet, Grow, and Operate. Built on a unified operating system. I don't know what that means. Is included with all products. Together, the product transforms every client conversation, document, and email into structured intelligence, compliance-ready documentation, and automated workflows, helping firms strengths, blah, blah, blah. So this is where we're all going. I mean, kudos
Yeah,
to Jump to coming up with a great name for it. But it's the
yeah.
same thing. Zox is doing the same thing. I think Cognicore does something also similar. Zeppelin, right? They're all rushing to get some sort of RIA, wealth management platform together that does all these things.
Yeah, I mean, operating system to me, if you're going to claim that, you need to pass the litmus test that you're the system of record, and Jump isn't, right. I mean, the data of record for many of this still lives within Wealthbox or Redtail or Salesforce, and Jump's sort of orchestrating around those systems, really, and so. Uh, it's interesting. I guess the question is, does Jump eventually need to become a CRM to fulfill that product vision, right?
Funny
Or
you mentioned that, Jeremy Carnell. So I had a call with, I had a demo from Parker Entz, the CEO of Jump, last
yeah,
September, October.
he's
And
great.
he showed,
I love
he's fantastic. He's a super smart guy.
him.
Um, and the, um, and he gave me a demo. I'm looking at it. And after the demo, I said, dude, you're a CRM. He's like, oh, no, no,
Yeah,
no, we're not a CRM. I'm like, you just showed me all these feature functionality. You're
yeah,
you're
yeah,
you're gathering all the tasks. You're building workflows.
yeah,
You've got every piece of client data. You're pushing it to the old CRM for
yeah,
for posterity purposes. But I'm not working with that anymore. If I'm an advisor, I'm living in your world. I'm
yeah,
prepping for meetings inside Jump. I'm running the meetings inside Jump. I'm doing follow-ups in the meetings inside Jump, checking my tasks. I'm running
yeah,
everything. I'm looking at the client sentiment analysis. I'm running reports. And what am I doing with this old CRM thing? It's useless. He's like, oh, we don't want to do that. I said, here's what you need to do. You need to call up your investors and tell them I need $100 million because I got
yeah.
to build out an entire platform here. He goes, oh no, we're not going to do that. Well, what happened in January? They announced
Oh
$80 million
yeah, $80 million.
funding. I didn't get
Yeah.
any of that. I got no credit for that, but I said that to him. It's all recorded. Um,
Oh
anyway, so that's what they're doing. Now, they don't want to say they are a CRM because they don't want the checklist comparison.
yeah,
If you say you're a CRM, they go, you don't have this, whatever the checklist is. If you say, well, we're an operating system, and oh, by the way, we do all these CRM like things, it's very different.
yeah. And I also don't think they want to ruffle sort of their channel feathers either, right? I mean, they
Hmm.
want to be able to play nicely in the sandbox with all the CRMs they're integrating with. And they begin to view themselves as a CRM. How many CRMs are going to be like, yeah, you're in the sandbox with me? That's going to come to a quick close.
Until they stick a shiv, until they're in the shower with the CRM and stick a shiv in there between their ribs. And I'll see you. Yeah, you're done.
That's exactly right. I was in some conversations with some consultants who I won't name.
Please.
But you could probably assume who they are. They that made the claim that with AI, I mean, look at something like Claude Cowork and the ability to via API integrations just be able to fuel something like that. There was a claim made by one consultant. They're like, in an AI world, are CRMs even necessary? Like in the long run,
nothing new. I mean, an article. Right. I've been talking about this since last year when an article came out from A16Z, the VC fund, which said it was titled cheekily "Death of a Salesforce." Yeah. And that's what it said. We don't need CRMs anymore, right? They don't. There's no reason for we had a CRM because that's the way the technology operated, and we didn't have. We needed a database centralized on a server somewhere because you couldn't pull the data fast enough from all the other systems. You had to bring it in, copy it, put it in a structure so I could query it, run reports on it. If now I can just query everything live and it's instantaneous, what do I need it in a database for? It's no reason.
Yeah, no, I think these are the headwinds that all of these startups are going to be facing. So,
and there's all these new CRMs launching, like Slant CRM and a bunch of other ones that are just coming out and saying, "Hey, we're just a new CRM, and work with us." And at first, no one's going to trust it, but pretty soon they'll be like, "Hey, I'm just using this all the time. Why not? Why am I paying XYZ company X thousands of dollars a year for a backup? Right. You're just a backup."
That's exactly right. So it's going to be interesting to see how the market changes in the next couple of years.
All right. So if you want to find out more, Zocks is Zocks.io. Yeah, Jump.ai. So that's where you can find more information about those too. All right. Next story on the April news: WealthBox AI from system of record to system of action. So WealthBox CRM has announced that they are launching a bunch of AI agents. So they're calling it WealthBox AI. They built it directly into what they're calling their system of record, which you mentioned earlier, which is the CRM. And they've got a couple different workflows and processes that they're launching for their clients. I think it's in beta at the moment. And it does a couple different interesting things, meetings and onboarding. They have a meeting note taker that they built. They're doing onboarding. They're doing some insights. So I think this is their desire to say, we don't want to get disintermediated by these AI operating systems that are now taking over advisor desktops. We can do onboarding. We can do follow-up. We can do meetings. We can do annual reviews and automate all that for you as well. What do you think?
Yeah. It's interesting. This headline struck home to me a little bit just because of my heritage with InvestNet, the whole sort of system of action, especially, Craig, you and I have over the years talked about decision intelligence and sort of next action and how InvestNet, especially on top of the data set it has, is driving that. And it's interesting. You're seeing this you're seeing this tension, I should say, on both ends of this market. On one end, you've got advisors living in the CRM, and there's a lot of unstructured data that lives there, right? And there's a lot of opportunity to be able to take action on that unstructured data. But there's also a lot of action that needs to be taken. And actually, it's probably at a scale far bigger than the unstructured data that lives within CRMs on platforms like Orion or InvestNet, et cetera, that will drive next best action. So this whole concept of system of action is going to come to heads when it only represents, if a CRM is talking about, it's only representing half of that equation. And if I actually were to look at the scale of the data, it's probably a lot less than half. And so unless they're aggregating data from those systems and factoring that in, which is probably another big thing, another big conversation that's going to happen between TAMPs and CRMs, et cetera, regarding who's sharing that data, if they're going to share that data, what they're going to get out of that data. Is it bidirectional? And who is really going to be that system of action? That's, I question whether or not that's going to be the CRM. Maybe. But again, I view that through the lens. I view that through, admittedly, through a very skewed lens from where I just came from. So,
Indeed, yeah, and I agree with a lot of that. That I see that who the system of record is going to be a battle. Because once you're the note taker, and once you're gathering all that data, you now become the system of record if you can just store it. And it's not a big hop, skip, and a junk away from what you've got to building out some sort of persistent data store.
yeah, but then think about this. So that is if they can get their hands on the all of the sort of insurance and annuity data, the managed account data, the brokerage data, all of the consumer aggregated data. Like there's so many of those feeds that are coming in first and foremost at the trading level, not the CRM level. And so how they go about getting that data, and if they get their hands on that data, I have to assume that that's going to come with agreements to give the source of that data, the unstructured data they're collecting as well. And then it's really where that workflow and action is going to live. Are people going to start trading in a CRM? Or are they going to continue to do that within the trading platforms or some other experience that may sit on the enterprise level? Like how that evolves over time is going to be really interesting.
Indeed, yeah, it's going really fast, and
Yeah.
I think that one thing you mentioned was the next best actions, and I'm working on an article called "The Uberization of Advisors." Because that's what's happening, right? That's what's going to be, right? You're going to see that because it's only a matter of time. Right, we've always talked about next best actions, but no one can deliver it.
Yeah.
It's all like random stuff. Do this, do that, and no one's really following up. No one's got enough data to validate whether any of this really works. That's all gone because we've gone from a world, and I'm not sure anyone's thinking about this, but before 2 years ago, before AI note takers, every RIA wealth management firm's CRM was a big mishmash of random data, some percentage of the information that appeared in the client meeting actually got into the CRM. And it's some number between 0 and 50%. Just guessing, right? No one really knows. But I guarantee it wasn't more than 50. Because every advisor, like you remember Mobile Assistant and Copy Talk, these advisors would go out in their car and talk into the phone to try to remember what they just talked about. So they're missing stuff. And that's only a small percentage of advisors. So the amount of data in the CRM was very random and haphazard. We've gone from a haphazard mix of stuff to 99.999% of everything said is being captured. That's going to completely change the way wealth management firms operate, manage, and the capability maturity model of their business, how they organize it and understand where they're weak and where they're strong and how to improve going forward. You're going to see all this data that says this advisor is more successful. This one's not because he does this, and he does that. You need to change that, right? Yeah. And the system is going to know, hey, you need to do this in this order. Call Craig in the morning. He's a morning person. When you call Jeremy, call him in the afternoon because he sleeps late, right? Well, whatever that is, it's going to be at that level of detail. And the advisors who follow the instructions are going to close much more, more deals, more new clients, more wallet share than the ones who don't.
Yeah, I mean, again, and again, if that's on the note-taking side, that's a signal universe 5,000 times smaller than what the trading platforms are getting. And you and I have, like, I've showed you the proof on the InvestNet side, right? Like is a clear distinction between those firms that are leveraging those next best actions and those that aren't. It is asymmetrical. And but I agree with that thesis, though, that the Uberization of advice. I think AI is turning every knowledge worker into a gig worker. Like it doesn't matter if you're a PhD in science or you're a financial advisor. You're becoming that.
Yeah, and because that's what's going to happen. That these tools are going to be, the Zocks and Jumps and Cognacores and Zeppelins are going to start saying, hey, do this, call this, use these words, right? Craig is a technology guy. Use more data-related words. Show him more charts and graphs. Jeremy is more wants feel good. He wants you to tell him he's going to be safe and his kid's going to go to college. Use those words with him. That's next. It's coming up that you're going to be able to do that.
And this is going to underscore your ability to connect with humans effectively, right? To communicate ideas, communicate concepts, be able to influence ideas and decisions. Like at the end of the day, that is going to be the skill you need as we become more and more meat puppets for AI.
Mhm.
That's
Well, you didn't have to put it that way, but yes.
I know.
Yeah. But what I wrote a number of years ago about how AI would, this is before generative AI, how AI
Yeah,
would be able to level out the EQ of advisors,
yeah,
whereas the emotional quotient, where some advisors have a they're just better at dealing with people than others,
yeah,
right?
yep,
And those advisors are much more successful than the other
yes.
ones. But once the AI starts documenting every single word they say and what and when they're successful, when they're not, they can start coaching up the other advisors and raising up their EQ.
Maybe that's assuming that those advisors that have low EQ can actually increase their EQ. Because
Well,
those with low EQ generally are there for a specific reason.
well, if you're running an RA or a wealth management firm, you've got some advisors that aren't following the script. You're
That's
gonna
right.
see that
Yeah,
in their output, and you're gonna say,
that's
well,
right.
look, at some point, I'm not carrying you anymore. You need to follow the script.
Yeah,
You know,
yep.
it's unfortunate, but that's what's going to, everyone's saying, no, we're not replacing people. We're not going to be doing this. But when the money starts rolling in and you go, well, this is working and this isn't,
Yeah.
I defy anyone to say we're not going to do that. All right. So Wealthbox is, want more information about them, they're at wealthbox.com. Okay, next up. Right Capital is introducing Smart Import, AI-powered tool to reduce the time to manually input plan data by 70%. This Smart Import feature leverages AI to read data from documents uploaded into Right Capital, identifying information relevant to a client's financial plan, and translate that information into financial plan inputs. This solution addresses one of the key challenges for financial planners, maintaining accurate and up-to-date information with client plans. I don't think that's the challenge. I think that this addresses one of the key challenges for Right Capital, which is being able to convert Money Guide and eMoney clients onto their platform.
That's right. That's right. No, it's also interesting. So they're giving away. Wait, it's so their smart import is basically AI document extraction, and they're giving it away to the entire industry for free. Is that what I'm hearing through this?
Well, I think it's only to convert from other platforms onto Right Capital.
Got it. Got it.
Right. So if you're a MoneyGuide Pro client or eMoney client, you'll say, hey,
Yeah.
you want to move to Right Capital? Well, I got so much invested in this other platform. I can't move because in the past you moved them one at a time manually. Every
Yeah.
client that came for the annual review, I'm like, oh yeah, now we're using eMoney. So now we're going to make a new plan for you, start from scratch. And it was a real pain. Now they can say, just give us all the plans. We'll just extract the PDF from the PDF files and build it all for you instantaneously.
Yeah, although this isn't a new story, like this has been around since OCR has been popular, right? So it's just, I don't know, maybe they're wrapping the fact that they wrapped it with an AI
I
sort
don't
of
think it
like,
worked at this level before. I think there was never the capability at scale to move thousands of financial plans from one
yeah,
platform to another. It didn't exist. And this goes back to the thing we were saying before about how the cost of the SaaS apocalypse, where you used to have a moat. When someone signed a contract and they started using your application, financial planning tool, they're building a moat. Every financial plan they create is one more thing they have to move if they switch, and it's impossible. So that created this huge inertia to switch from financial planning tools.
yeah,
That's now gone if this is
yeah,
working, right? Because I know
yeah,
eMoney has the same thing, and I'm sure MoneyGuide Pro will build something as well. So now it's like you move it all over. We'll have it in a day. We'll move it. We'll have all your plans recreated. So there's no more moat.
yeah. But again, also that assumes that, yeah, that these plans are continuing to come in document format the way that we're talking about it, which is a very
Mhm.
old school way of this
Mhm.
data existing. And that's growing smaller and smaller every day. So anyway, and not to say it's disappeared whatsoever. They're obviously solving for something. I mean, tax documents, insurance and estate documents, account statements,
Mhm.
all that sort of thing is still very much paper based. But and there's many players still in this space, right? Holistic Plan on the tax document side, FP Alpha on the insurance and estate
Mhm.
document side. How that impacts the startups in this space, and whether or not it's a true differentiator to allow them to attract business. I'll be curious to see. It'll be interesting.
Oh, it's all interesting. Absolutely. All right. So if you want to find out more information, go to rightcapital.com. All right. So let's go right to the next story. You're excited for the range story. So I'm going to do the Finney story first. Then we'll do the range story after that.
Anyway, yeah, go ahead.
Right. Finney debuts Hunter, a new AI agent that thinks, guides, and acts as a chief growth officer for advisors. So they claim it's the first of its kind, yada, yada, artificial intelligence growth engine. Hunter's introduction builds on Finney's recent 17 million Series A round. That's nice, cha-ching, and represents an evolution of the platform. So Finney is a marketing platform. It seems like they're trying to rebuild HubSpot, but just for advisors.
Hold on. Are we talking? I thought we were talking about range.
No, we're doing Finney first.
Oh, I don't have that. I don't think I have that. I didn't know we had Finney on the list, or maybe.
Hold on a second. Let me just put that in the chat for you.
All right. Sorry about that. That was one thing I thought range. But yeah, let's do Finney.
All right, we'll keep going. All right. So Finney is more of its digital marketing tool. It seems like a HubSpot type of tool, and it gets to know each advisor's value proposition, differentiation as a niche, and creates context-based marketing strategies and execution for them. So there's a lot of automation that Finney was doing for advisors, as well as doing searches for prospects, what their data that's available on the internet, which advisors never really had access to before, to say, are they searching for investment advice? Are they searching for retirement keywords? Are they searching for education? Now, this Hunter AI agent, according to Finney, eliminates the requirement for advisors to be their own marketers by proactively suggesting, guiding, and executing marketing campaigns across channels, creating personalized outreach and marketing content, including blog posts, LinkedIn content, website copy, great, more AI slop, without requiring any marketing expertise from users.
Yeah.
All right, so what do you think of that? You just read the story.
Yeah, no, I'm hearing it for the first time through you. It is I think we're going to just hear more of these. Like, this isn't a unique case study. I mean, this vast advisors obviously for this. You've got other marketing automation, marketing solutions in the space that are just being smart about how they leverage AI. And what's great about generative AI is that it can do this stuff at scale pretty quickly. And so they're just applying that.
Yeah, I just see that people are going to be swamped with deeply personalized content.
Yeah.
And everyone's going to know, right now it's not personalized, but it's going to be very soon. All these tools, like I work with Michael Kitsis on the map every month. Every month we're seeing 8 to 10 new applications, and then more and more of these AI. And we're seeing a lot of lead gen prospecting tools. And they all claim, we watch money in motion events, and we're going to generate personalized outreach to these people. God forbid you have a liquidity event. You better turn off your email for about a month. Because you're going to be pummeled with, hey, I just saw this. Hey, I got this personalized outreach to you. Yeah, I heard you like sports. Boom, 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 a million things. And at some point, it's not going to work at all.
Yeah, no, yeah, and the whole personalized. I think what's interesting. At least I feel this way. I might be alone on this, but it's clear to me now when I read content that's AI generated versus not. Right. And so, and it's interesting because it makes that content, which isn't AI generated, far more valuable, far more meaningful. You sit there and you think, okay, now this person sat down and really thought through this. It's not generic. And so I wonder whether or not I'm assuming AI will get to a point where its level of maturation will stop making it sound so cookie cutter. But right now, saying that AI is going to generate all this personalized content at scale, it's like, yeah, no, that's what it can do. But consumers are going to read that content and call bullshit on it.
Someone made a funny, I can't remember what conference I was at there, said how it's very quickly, we're going to be so overrun with AI generated slop content that when something's created by a human, we're going to call it, hey, this is an artisan article. This was created by real people wrote this.
Yeah.
It's artisanal content.
Yeah, that's right. AI content is going to be so overly commoditized. The stuff that we used to do and take for granted is all of a sudden going to increase in value. It's going to be interesting.
I think so. So we're already there. Okay, so that's Finney. There you go. So Finney.com. Okay, now the story that Jeremy's been waiting for the entire news. Range. RIA startup Range plans to eliminate its own advisor workforce as AI takes over. Range, RIA managing 700 million, plans to eliminate much of its advisor workforce within 1 to 3 years as AI replaces their roles, according to CEO Fahad Hassan. Over time, let's say over the next 1 to 3 years, we're going to eliminate our own advisor base or maybe have them work with the ultra high net worth individuals who are going to flock to our RIA. No, I just added that. Who, no matter how good the AI is, they just want to talk to a person. Our belief is if you are 50 or 60 years old and under, if you are 50 or 60 years old and under, you're going to be comfortable with AI doing everything for you. Okay, over the next decade. Range's website lists names to face of 26 financial advisors holding CFP and CPA designations. They've raised $60 million since last November to continue building their AI wealth advisory tool called Ray, RAI, which the company says scored a 95% on the CFP exam practice questions. Investors in Range include Google affiliated Gradient Ventures and the 53 Stations venture capital firm backed by the Pritzker Organization. All right, so what do you think of this?
Oh, I don't think it's, well, I've got so many thoughts. So on the
We'll
whole,
start one at a time there, Jeremy.
yeah, I'll start one at a time. The whole 95% passing the CFP. I mean, New York University just did that with every single one of the frontier models just 2 or 3 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, they passed. They had a passing. All of them got a passing score in like 8 minutes. And if they were allowed to use chain of thought reasoning, they could get a 95+% score in 15 minutes. Like that's not unusual. That's been proven, and that's not unique to Range. I think where this is looking through the lens of an old sort of industry infrastructure, trying to apply that old industry infrastructure to new technology, where the question then needs to be asked is like, well, yeah, I think they have a point. Let me back up. Mm-hmm. People with $100,000 to $1 million are like, there's a real need, massive fluent, let's call it. That's a legitimately underserved market, right? That being said, if people that are 60 and younger are comfortable using AI, there's no reason to, or I guess the question that Range will need to answer is, if they're that comfortable in using AI, why do they need to come to you? Like a lot of these families are going to have history with their own AI. It's assuming that they're the only ones that have access to AI, and they're not. Right. And so these individuals, hell, my identical twin brother is one of them. He fired his financial advisor because all of his financial advice is coming through his fine-tuned model on his own AI. He didn't need RIA to do that. And he's printing money through that. Like he's doing really well in that regard. And I think that's a canary in the coal mine for the rest of the industry. So I don't think the long-term perspective of this thesis is wrong. I just don't know if it's entire, like, I don't know if they're the solution. Like, I think if the clients that they're talking about can just skip them altogether, just use their own straight AI. So
rather than a 1% fee that advisors traditionally charge, Range's app subscription model offers 3 annual flat tier fees, $3,000, $6,000, or $10,000. They each different level of financial services. They each offers different levels of financial services across investing, portfolio management, real estate, estate planning, taxes, retirement planning, blah, 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 equity compensation, and more. So that's an interesting model. Mm-hmm. Anthropic's recent release of AI wealth management plugins for RIAs and broker-dealers has brought new attention to how AI could disrupt the financial advice industry. Last month, Morgan Stanley cut 2,500 jobs, while fintech giant Block in February said that AI usage was driving the company to lay off 40% of their workforce.
Yeah, that's, it's going to continue to happen, right? And I think that those firms with access to real data that is generally hard for maybe investors to get their hands on, that can fine-tune models and be there quicker, etc., will have a time in the sun, I think, for some way, shape, or form. But I think at the end of the day, at some point, the frontier models are going to continue to use or going to continue to get access to this data. And I think over time, and hell, I even think the AI that exists today, that is again publicly available, is it's going to put all of these competitors like toe to toe with the frontier models in doing this on their behalf, or doing this. I'm sorry, not on their behalf, doing this competitively against them. And so, yeah, I think we're going to see more and more firms that have AI as an option. I think it will be a hybrid for a while, where you're going to have maybe the high net worth that have the bespoke human interface, and then you've got this self-serve that's being managed by AI, and they're very comfortable with that because they grew up with that, right, in their banking systems, et cetera. I mean, you've got a huge amount of the upcoming generation that has done nothing but interface with AI around their finances. So they're going to be very comfortable with that. Whether or not they decide to leverage an RIA's AI or they just use their own is the question I still have. I question this business model. Not because I think it's wrong. It's just because I'm like, well, you're already, the technology's already sort of sidestepped you.
If you'd like to learn more about Range and their RIA and other services, they're at range.com. In our never-ending list of AI stories, the next one, Tiffin Group announces the consolidation of its AI businesses and the launch of Tiffin.ai, an industry-first agentic operating system. Where have I heard that for? I'm pretty sure it's not the industry's first, but
everywhere.
It's one of the many agentic AI operating systems. So they're consolidating a bunch of stuff. So Tiffin is a holding company that's been building out a bunch of tools and launching different businesses and buying some stuff and trying to build something, which we applaud. Any innovative ways to build out more feature functionality and more ways that advisors can grow their businesses or be more efficient, we're all for. So this new platform, according to Tiffin, serves multiple personas, and it's going to be a Tiffin.ai. Advisor support advisors and end clients. Tiffin.ai is well, I'm not going to say the industry's first. It's a multi-workflow and multi-persona platform with coordination across them. Who wrote this? At the same time, firms can get started with single agents for specific personas towards a unified vision. I don't understand this at all. I'm in the industry and I don't understand what they're doing or what they're saying here. Okay. The move comes as wealth shifts from experimenting with standalone AI tools and towards integrated systems that can operate across the enterprise. These firms serve multiple user personas, and each will rely on its own agentic workforce. The challenge is that these systems cannot operate in isolation. They need to span operational and investment workflows, share context, interact with one another in ways that reflect how work gets done. Okay, I get that. Tiffin's early start in AI, yeah, they were early, has placed it as a premier technology. They've allowed it to provide a breadth and depth needed to be a credible partner. Okay. Now this new single system will be across wealth, asset management. Wait, Tiffin's AI agents are already in use across wealth, asset management, insurance, and WealthTech with live deployments across all these different things. So I still don't understand what this platform is. Is it for all those, or is it just a platform for wealth?
It's the way I'm reading this is sort of, again, some of the things that we were doing with an InvestNet. Some of the early AI work that we were doing was very point solution based, right? So it was next best action, or it was workflow related within the trading platform, or it was financial planning related, but they were all separate, right? And in Tiffin's case, you had AI for asset managers, AI for wealth, AI for insurance. This sounds like is a consolidation of those agents under a super agent that then is able to look at all of that data and be able to stitch all of that together in context versus it being siloed for those different personas. That makes sense.
One of the strongest signals for us has been the caliber of early adoption, said Harshendu Bindal, CEO of Tiffin.ai. Was already being used by more than 10 enterprise wealth clients, all well-known names in the industry. This traction reinforces where enterprise AI and wealth is heading. I'm going to call BS on that. I've seen this before where they have one of their tools being used, and then they launch something else and go, well, we're used by, Morgan Stanley's using our tool. What are they using this? Well, this other thing that you sold them. Well, they're using the other thing, but we're trying to sell them this. Like, so they're not using the Tiffin AI yet. They're using one of the tools you built that they like for the one very narrow purpose, whatever that might be. So
Right.
I'm going to call BS on that. But yeah, it's all marketing. This is marketing stuff. You got
This
to get it
sounds,
out there.
I don't know. It could be a legitimate orchestration layer that they're putting in place above the three or multiple offerings, and that is legitimate. Like, yeah, and it would be a smart for them to make
Hmm.
that move.
Well, here,
In fact,
Tiffin, here it says on the press release about Tiffin.ai. Tiffin.ai is an AI platform for wealth, asset management, and insurance. The
yeah,
company builds agentic workforces to augment functions across wealth. Its systems
right.
connect data, software, and workflows with the goal of delivering better wealth outcomes for more people. A worthy goal.
Yeah.
All right. All right. I've pontificated enough. Any last thoughts on this?
No.
All right. Tiffin.ai is the website. All right, one last story with Jeremy before I move on to the Advisor Tech map and wrap this up. All right, LPL to acquire Mariner's $31 billion advisor network. Our first non-AI story of the day.
Yeah.
This is about people. LPL
Yeah.
Financial has agreed to acquire Mariner Advisor Network, an LPL affiliate that supports 367 human financial advisors. I inserted human there, managing 31 billion in assets
Yeah.
from Mariner. Private Advisor Group, in partnership with LPL, will acquire the network's hybrid advisors and align them under its hybrid registered investment advisor. So LPL isn't buying it, Private Advisor Group is buying it. I'm confused. Through the transaction, 223 advisors will remain directly affiliated with LPL, continue to operate on their existing platform with uninterrupted service for client and businesses while gaining access to an expanded suite of wealth management and business support offerings. LPL said the deal includes a transition of 144 hybrid advisors to Private Advisor Group's hybrid RIA model, where they will maintain their multi-custody relationship and keep operating on the same LPL platform. So, what do you think?
You can look at this two different ways. Through one lens, you could look at this as sort of the old world and the new world colliding in one headline. The largest independent BD acquiring Mariner at, basically that's advisor network at scale, right as AI companies are saying human advisors are obsolete. So either LPL knows something that AI bulls don't, regarding sort of the durability of human advice, or they're making an expensive bet on a model that's about to get disrupted. Now that's one lens. The other lens could be something very different. That's a very black or white sort of view. The other lens could be that it's both. It's like, yeah, no, we're getting this, but the digital exhaust that comes off of this level of scale is important for us in the future of how we're going to be building out our technology solutions and having the $31 billion of assets added to already a huge base of assets under management. And again, all of the activity that's coming off of that scale of advisors is important for us and what our long-term goals are and how we're going to fine-tune our own models, how we're going to continue to aggregate data at scale, et cetera. And so I would like to think it's the latter instead of the former, but we'll see.
So, Jeremy, you owe me $1 because in the last podcast, you said every time you say digital exhaust, you got to pay me $1.
I will pay you that dollar when I see you at Elevate, my friend.
And you just said digital exhaust. Okay.
I
So,
did.
LPL saw an opportunity to deepen their relationship with advisors and affiliate with Mariner Advisor Network by welcoming them into our growing supported independence community, one built on collaboration and commitment to advisor success, said Mark Cohen, LPL Group Managing Director and Chief Growth Officer. All right, so Private Advisor Group, which LPL made a minority investment last November, has been developing resources and solutions for its expanding community, and LPL is the group's primary custodian and broker-dealer. So providing the flexibility to align the right platform to the right practice needs is a core benefit of our multi-custodial hybrid RIA offering, said Private Advisor Group CEO Frank Smith. So it seems like they believe that the advisor business needs advisors, and they see these guys not being replaceable cogs, but something they can use to keep building their business.
Completely. Yeah. And there were people that used to make horseshoes that also felt that was always going to be a business as well at scale. And that obviously changed. So
are you comparing financial advisors to blacksmiths?
No, I'm comparing them to horse and buggy versus automobiles.
Okay, good to know. Now we see where Jeremy fits in all this. Okay, so there's a lot of companies we just talked about. We talked about Mariner, we talked about LPL, we talked about Private Advisor Group. You guys can ask your favorite AI about them and learn more about them there. Great, Jeremy, thanks for being here, man. We talked for like almost an hour.
I know.
This is
it's
one of the
awesome.
longest news programs ever.
I love it.
I really appreciate it. I got to have you back on sometime soon. Thanks again.
I love that, man. I appreciate you, brother.
Cheers. Now it's time for my favorite part of the news. It's the AdvisorTech map and the WealthTech integration score. So I'm going to list a couple of the applications that Michael Keatsis and I review every month that were added to the April AdvisorTech map, which you can find on keatsis.com. First up, Equity Nav. This application was added to the equity comp category. Advisors use Equity Nav as deterministic planning AI layer for equity compensation and concentrated stock decisions. They enter the client's equity profile, dates, holdings, and tax context, and the system routes the case through the correct treatment path by instrument and event type, then produces consistent, explainable outputs tied to the underlying assumptions and formulas. We've seen a bunch of equity compensation applications launched in the past year or so. I think there's been a number of them that have come online since the map was launched, obviously, but the specialized planning section of the map has really been growing exponentially over the last few years. And equity comp, I think, has got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 now applications. So we're getting more and more of those. Tax is expanding. Education, cash management, we're all really picking up. So Equity Nav is one of these equity comp applications. It's equitynav.io is the website. Next up, Trusty, which is going to the legacy planning category. Trusty, the website is with Trusty, trusty.com, the trusted way to share your wishes, a single place to organize the plans, documents, and personal wishes your family will need. So this is passing on. It builds a binder of one secure, organized place with all the plans, documents, and that your family will need to follow up and take over things after you pass away. So we call that legacy planning, and there's a number of applications in that area, including Everplans, Legacy Shield, LifeSight, and so on. So you can find that at withtrusty.com. Let's see here. Next up is Epilogue in estate planning. Their website is GetEpilogue, just as it sounds, getepilogue.com. Turn estate plans into your competitive advantage. Another estate planning tool, and upload a plan, understand it instantly, and lead the conversation. There's not much on the website about it, but it looks like they want you to upload your estate plan, and it'll create visual diagrams, a plan health check, and client-ready reports. So you can find that at getepilogue.com. And we have Contio from my good friend Aaron Klein's new startup, Contio.ai, which is a meeting and conversation tool. So it's more than just a meeting note taker. They've got something called Meeting OS that really does a lot more than just meetings, but it works for you at every stage. So it has meeting prep, they provide intelligence during the meeting, and then follow through and follow-ups after the meeting. You can check it out at Contio.ai. They don't have bots. They've got the tools that make meetings and your whole team feel smarter. They're building a lot of interesting AI capabilities, which you can find on their website at Contio.ai. Next up, Fintelion, which is going into investment data analytics, which is a really crowded category. Fintelion delivers research depth, portfolio intelligence, and advisory workflows of a full institutional team to independent RIAs, boutique analysts, and family offices without the overhead. So this is an AI-based investment data analytics tool, Fintelion.ai. Next up, Fidulink. Fidulink? Fidulink.ai. Fidulink.ai, or Fidulink, like fiduciary, but Fidulink, all-in-one communications super suite for fiduciary firms, providing a seamless AI-powered communication suite, pre-built for prospects and centers of influence, outreach with 100+ hours of pre-built automations and messaging ready to go from day one, and designed to support true financial pros. FidUlink is a digital marketing tool. So it looks like it's going to be building out marketing capabilities for these different people you're working with at your firm. They've got a whole bunch of different options for tools and pricing at fidulink.ai or fidulink.ai. Let's close all these other windows. All right. We only got one more that was added this month, 8 Figures, with the number 8, figures.com, which is a client portal. We haven't seen many new client portals recently. It's one of the areas which is not overwhelmed with applications, at least not standalone applications. From confusion to clarity, from clarity to wealth, for a fraction of traditional advisor fees, private and secure by design, 8 Figures. They have a mobile app and a client portal. Smart portfolio monitoring, financial freedom, second opinion, turn questions into clarity, 8figures.com. So that's all the additions to the map for the April map. If you want to find out the scores of these applications, you can go to ezgroup.com and click on the integration scores menu option, and you can look these up in the different categories and see how each of these applications line up with all the other applications in their category. We're almost at 3,000 integrations that we've been mapping, and the median integration score is up to a 4.5 across the entire industry. So that's pretty good compared to where we were just a year ago. Things are getting more integrated, firms are building out more integrations, and we're really happy about that. All right, you've reached the end of another episode of WealthTech Today podcast. Thanks for listening. But before you go, head to our website, ezgroup.com, and scroll to the bottom of the homepage and sign up for our newsletter. Once a month, you receive an email chock full of wealth management goodness, news, information, and updates. You will not be disappointed. Thanks again for listening, and talk to you all again next time.